class, this lesson right now. My daughter Summer is watching me film this. Right, Summer? Way to pay attention. All right, so let's talk about this. Percent of the unknown. In mathematics, the unknown is really the variable, right? The variable of the expression or equation. We can use x, we can use any letter we like. So let's just go straight to an example. Okay, and actually grabbing an example from your book. 70% of what number, right? What number is 25? 70% of what number is 25? You guys, starting today, let's practice translating really word to word. This is an English sentence, right? It's a question, and we are translating each part of the question, okay, to a mathematical expression. You can do it. Here we go. 70%. It means in a number, you can re-express that as 70 out of 100. Percent just always means out of 100. Of means multiplication in math. What number? That means a variable. So let's put that as an x. Is means equal sign. And then 25. All right. So, because it's kind of messy, I'm going to write that all over again. 70 over 100. Multiply that by x is equal to 25. And then we use the conceptual understanding that we learned a while back. Remember what it means to solve an equation. Solving an equation means to isolate the variable. Okay? We are rewriting this entire expression, the entire equation in terms of x, for an x, all right, for the variable. It means your goal is to get x by itself. When we are there, you know you solved that equation. All right, what's our obstacle? Our obstacle is that x is not by itself. It's been multiplied by 70 over 100. And we talked about what it means to undo that multiplication, right? What undoes the multiplication? Division. So we divided both sides of the equation by 70 over 100. And by the rule of thumb, you must do the same. You must apply the same thing to the other side of the equation as well. Whatever you do to one side of the equation, you must do it to the other side. Therefore, you must divide the right side of the equation by the same exact number. And it doesn't matter how complicated looking the left side, that fraction, decimal, integer, it doesn't matter. A number divided by itself. 70 over 100 divided by 70 over 100. A number divided by itself is always 1, isn't it? And that is exactly how you cancel. 70 over 100 divided by 70 over 100 itself is 1. 5 million divided by 5 million itself is 1. 0.573 divided by 0.573 is 1. A number divided by itself is always 1. So finally, x is by itself. All you have to do is just take care of that, okay? So here we go. 25 divided by 70 over 100. And we've learned to, you see, we had to master all 4 operations with fractions, how to add, subtract, and multiply, divide fractions before we enter this chapter. And this is why. 25 divided by 70 over 100 is same as 75 multiplied by its reciprocal, which is this flipped version of 70 over 100, right? So it's 100 over 70. Are we okay? And we've said it enough, you guys. Whenever you see a possibility for reducing or a cross cancellation, go for it. When you see it, go for it. I see a bunch of zeros. I see 2 zeros upstairs and 1 zero. It doesn't matter. It should not confuse me anymore. All I know is that 1 zero goes away with another 0. Not all zeros go away all at the same time. That is a misconception. So 1 0 goes away with another, 1 0 downstairs. Now I'm left with 25 over 1. Let me put that in, okay, so I can comfortably visualize the cross cancellation process, multiplied by 10 over 7 because I just reduced this fraction. Now I'm going to go for the possibility of cross cancellation. Do you see any common factor that goes in 25 and 7 or between 10 and 1? I don't. So you have no other choice but to multiply across. 25 multiplied by 10 is 250 over, we had 1 and 7, this is 7, and that is 7. What is your x? It is 250 divided by 7. Okay, that is our solution. So 70% of what number is 25? 70% of 250 divided by over 7 is 25. Now, you might be thinking, that doesn't really, make much sense. Then you can go ahead and, do the division, okay? So 250, numerator always is the dividend inside of dividend house. 7, how many times does it go in? It goes in 3 times, 21, 40, and how many times does 7 goes into 40? That's 5 times, 35, and that is 5. So let me just rewrite that improper fraction as a mixed fraction. And that is 35 and 5/7. So as a result, 70% of 35 and 5/7 is, what was the original problem? 25. Ta-da! That's it. And we did it. Okay? So that's one way to do it. So that's method number 1. Okay, you guys? This is method number 1. And this involved inverse operation, right? Method number 2. Let me copy the original problem. 70% of what number, I'm just going to put in the variable, okay, to begin with right away, is 25, right? Now, we learned to set up the equation called proportion. What was a proportion again? Proportion is an equation, you guys, after all, it's an equation setting two ratios equal to each other. Okay, so let's talk about how we've learned to do that. 70% is partial, right? 70 is partial. What's whole? While 70 is partial, whole is always 100 because we're talking about a percent, all right? Now, keeping that order, partial over whole, we put in the percent numbers in that order. How about just numbers, okay? 70% of a number is 25. In this case, what is your partial? Isn't 25 your partial number? Okay. 75% of some number. That some number is the whole number, right? We don't know what it is, and there goes your proportion. And this is called rational equation. It's a rational equation. Do you remember how to solve rational equation? Rational means fraction. Any number that can be written in the fraction form, in a over b form, where a and b are both integers and b cannot equal to 0. But anyways, this is a rational equation, and you can always solve. You can solve any rational equation by performing cross multiplication. That was the second method we learned today. That cross gives you 70x, and the other cross gives you 2500. That is 2,500. Okay? Now, again, proportion is an equation. Our goal is to get x by itself. How do you get x by itself? By performing the inverse operation. X is being multiplied by 70. I just have to undo 70. How do I undo 70? It's multiplication. Inverse operation of multiplication is division, so dividing both sides, not just one side, by 70. Obviously, these guys cancel each other out. Oh, I see a bunch of zeros again. 0 goes away with another 0. And ta-da! Does that sound familiar? 250 over 7. Isn't that what we got here which eventually equal to 35 and 5/7. 35 and 5/7. We got the same answer. Yep, that's what we learned today, okay? And then another thing, so let's go over method 3, okay? Method 3. I want to bring in a different scenario to cover the third method. For example, this is problem number 17. This is one of the homework problems, okay? 50% of what number is 75, okay? Actually, didn't we do this in class today? All right, no, not this one. 50% of what number is 75? So method number 1, let me just do mental math first, okay? Because I promised you I will introduce the third method. Third method is mental math. Obviously, the reason why after taking 12 years of math, all right, obviously I want you to, this is how I want you to be able to handle math when you are 33 years old. 50% it means half, isn't it? Right? It's half. 50% is half. Half of what number is equal to 75, right? Half of what number? Obviously, some number that's bigger than 75. Half of what number is 75? Don't you double 75 to find that number, which is what? 150, right? So the answer is automatically 150. Half of what number? 150 is 75. That makes sense, right? Yeah, okay. Then you can use either method, you guys, you learned today in class to double check your weight. So, method 1, all right? Let's use a proportion way since we just talked about it. You guys ready? 50% of what just happened? Sorry about that. 50% of what number is 75? So 50%, let's set up the formula, not a formula, but the concept of a percent. It is partial over whole. 50% is the partial part, right? Whole is always 100 for a percent, okay? And what's the number, the partial number? 50% of some number is, okay? Part of some number is 75. So 75 is the partial number. And whole number is what we're looking for. And there goes your proportion. Okay? Now, let's do it again. Cross multiplication. All right? Now, this cross right here gives you 50x is equal to 7,500. Okay? Now, there are a couple ways to do this, but, let me not confuse you and just go ahead and perform the inverse operations. 50x is equal to 7,500, and our goal is to get x by itself. And 50 divides by itself, and that gives you x alone. I get to knock out some zeros. That's fine. It's 750 divided by 5. Please, you guys, number sense. This number ends with a 0. That number ends with a 5, which means both numbers are divisible by 5. So let's go ahead and divide this. It's lovely if you can do this in your head right away. But if you cannot do that at the moment, why not just do the long division? 5 goes into 7 once, and then 5, 25. 5 times gives you 25, and then that's 0, but you still have the 0, so go ahead and fill that in, all right? So that is 150. Isn't that what we got up here? So the proportion method works. Last one. Let me copy the problem one more time. 50% of what number is equal to, what was it, you guys? 75, right? Let's use the translation method. We're going to set up an equation, okay? 50%, second, honey. 50 out of 100 of translates to multiplication, and x is x. Bring down the equal sign as it is, 75. You guys ready? Same thing. We're undoing this. How do you undo multiplication? You're dividing this by the same number itself. Therefore, rule of thumb in mathematics, you do one thing to one side of the equation, do exact same thing to the other side. And therefore,
woohoo, they cancel each other, or they, number divides itself once, right? And then you bring down x. 1 second, sorry, honey. X is equal to, now you gotta do this out, 75 divided by 50 over 100. I know some of you want to do 50 over 100 by by reducing the fraction to begin with. You can even reduce it further. 5 over 10 is really half, isn't it? Right? 50 goes into 100 twice, so you could have just started the calculation with half, which gives you 75 multiplied by, reciprocate the second fraction whenever you perform division with fractions. 1 over 2 becomes 2 over 1, doesn't it? Uh-oh, there's nothing to come out with, right? There's nothing to cross cancel between these two. Therefore, you're going to have to just multiply across, which is 75 times 2, 150 over 1 is 150. Yay! 150, 150, 150. Woo! Good job. Good job. So that's what we learned today. All right? So that is what it means. That is how you find the percent of the unknown. Good job setting up the equation. Good job performing the inverse operation. And good job looking at one problem from various angles. And good job using your mental math ability. Okay, good job, you guys. See you tomorrow. Bye.